Meantime, there is growing fallout on Capitol Hill after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announcing she would be going along on the January 6th commission and forming that. Newsmax national correspondent Logan Ratick joins us live from the Capitol with the latest on that. Logan.
Good morning. Just weeks after Congress failed to create a bipartisan 9/11 style commission to investigate the January 6th attack, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she's forming a select committee that will look into the security breakdowns and possible coordination and motives that took place on that day.
The select committee will investigate and report on the facts and the causes of the attack, and it will report recommendations for the prevention of any future attack.
Pelosi says she'd prefer an outside commission, but that her only choice is to take action.
I have no intention of walking away from our responsibility, and I don't care what, I hope that Kevin will appoint responsible people to the committee.
She's forming the new select committee after the Senate voted earlier this month to block legislation to create an independent bipartisan commission. The committee would be a Democratic majority in charge of the investigation. But Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy says Pelosi hasn't even filled him in on her plan.
She's never once talked to me about it. She hasn't followed up, and I've sent her numerous letters, tried to discuss with her. She did not want to talk to me about it.
And Speaker Pelosi's tight-lipped about the committee's responsibilities.
I'm not going into what the committee will do. That's up to the committee to make their determination.
Now, Pelosi hasn't said who will lead the commission, and she still is pretty vague on the responsibilities of this committee. But some members of her caucus are reportedly pushing for Benny Thompson, who's the chair of the Homeland Security Committee, to take up this new select committee. Back to you.
Yeah, that committee already failed in the Senate. This is another attempt at it from the House and the Speaker, so we'll continue to see. We don't have many details on it, but we'll continue to follow that. Newsmax national correspondent, that's Logan Ratick from the Capitol. Logan, thank you.
Well, could Florida Governor Ron DeSantis be on the ticket in 2024? While former President Trump still essentially serves as the party's de facto leader, where does that leave DeSantis? Joining us to discuss, Washington editor, The Spectator columnist Amber Athey, who just wrote an article exploring DeSantis' role in the party titled The DeSantis Doctrine. DeSantis is perfectly positioned to become the next Republican leader if Trump steps aside. Amber, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. As we know, Donald Trump, he is loved by his base, but there could be some overlap of people who like Trump and also really like DeSantis. And what is it that you attribute to Ron DeSantis' rise in popularity?
Well, obviously, his rise in popularity started with his handling of the pandemic. He was one of just a few governors across the entire U.S. who was willing to refused to issue a statewide mask mandate. He refused to implement these crazy economic restrictions in the name of trying to stop the spread of this virus. And on the end of it, it turns out that Florida was better off in terms of case counts and death counts than just about any other state in the U.S. But that wasn't the end of it. DeSantis didn't want to just rest on his laurels. He has recently signed a string of conservative legislation that he can add to his resume heading into both his reelection race in 2024. Just recently, he signed a bill indicating that state universities, public universities, must commit to academic freedom if they want to continue to have state funding. He's gone after Chinese influence in universities. He's gone after big tech censorship, as well as critical race theory. So this is a governor who's going to continue to advance conservative principles and clearly is not worried about backlash from the media or the left.
Right. You point out all of these policies. Quite frankly, a lot of them are in line with what Donald Trump also hoped to achieve here. And then as we look ahead towards 2024, you think about who might be on the ticket. Of course, we don't know formally whether DeSantis or Donald Trump are interested necessarily or would be willing to run. I asked RNC chairperson Ronna McDaniel about the role of what we might see on 2024's ticket. Here's what she had to say. Who does the RNC believe to be the strongest 2024 candidate?
You know, we're so far away from 2024, I can't even think about it. It really is about 2022 for me. We're 5 seats away from taking back the House and retiring Nancy Pelosi. And I think if you are going to be a strong 2024 contender, you need to be out there helping candidates win in 2022.
Essentially, they're punting on the question. But Amber, in your piece, you argue that Ron DeSantis could be the guy for the job, but Donald Trump would have to acknowledge it and step back. What did you mean by that, and what led you to come to that conclusion?
Well, if former President Donald Trump does decide to run again, he is going to be sucking all of the attention, all of the air out of the room from these other candidates. And also, it would be basically political suicide for any of these other Republicans to try to challenge a former president and the current leader of their party. So Trump has a kingmaker role to play here. If he decides not to run, he will also have a huge hand in deciding who his successor should be. What I also wrote about in that article are some of the things that perhaps make DeSantis a better choice than the former president. One of the major disappointments of the Trump presidency was his inability to implement a lot of aggressive legislation like he campaigned on because of his personnel issues. He was not great at staffing his White House with people who agreed with his vision, and as such, a lot of his goals were undermined. DeSantis apparently doesn't have that problem, according to Florida Republicans who I spoke to.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.